Hey guys, Moldy Fish Sticks here. Now I was extremely excited for this game to finally release and I wanted to get my hands on it as soon as possible. So much so that this is one of the only games I've pre-ordered this year, apart from Stray, Elden Ring and Modern Warfare 2. A Souls-like RPG set during an alternative historical dystopian version of the French Revolution, where robots known as automats have gone completely haywire, killing off most of humanity as a whole, working for none other than King Louis XVI himself. King Louis XVI was not a good ruler in the real world, but in this game he's a complete and utter fuckknuckle. The main protagonist you control in this game is called Aegis, an automat that's capable of speech and reason, fighting for humanity in order to put a stop to this mechanical army. This entire concept and setting alone was enough for me to be excited for this release, and seeing the gameplay and setting in action in many YouTube videos before its launch was nothing short of thrilling. I was extremely excited for this game, but if you've been keeping up with many known critics or the Steam store reviews, you'll notice that this game has extremely mixed reviews, and I want to talk about why there are so many mixed reviews and my overall opinion of the game. The biggest one is the PC port as a whole. The frame rate and bugs many people are experiencing are at such an unpolished and unfinished state for people to completely write this game off based on this alone, and I completely understand that. This game is beautiful and a lot of work went into it, but the graphics aren't anything to call home about. I'm able to play much better looking games than this on 4K while recording with barely any stutters or frame drops, but I had to constantly lower the resolution of this game to record decent gameplay in some areas, even with DLSS enabled. This is extremely upsetting as it simply looked like they didn't care about properly optimizing this game for the PC. A lot of people playing on the PS5 or Xbox Series X don't face these problems, and even on my 3060 it seemed very rushed and unbaked. Like I said, if I can run like Spider-Man or God of War better than this with max graphics, this highlights the lack of care for PC players, and in all honesty, this game could have been released on the PS4 and Xbox One easily. I mean, it looks great, but it doesn't look next gen. I want to shine light on this aspect of the game first, as this is the predominant complaint this installment suffers from. However, I do have a lot of other things that need to be said about this game. Some good, some great, but some things that really pissed me off. I'm going to be comparing this installment with Dark Souls for the most part, as it would make sense to have this game juxtaposed with the original gangster that truly kindled, pun intended, the category as a whole. So without further ado, let's stick our finger right into this lukewarm meat pie. Like I mentioned, I bought this game because of the concept and setting, and to be honest, this was the main reason why I stayed. The world was beautifully crafted, and there are some areas that shock you with how catastrophic this automat uprising was. All hope seems lost for humanity, and you can see it firsthand around every corner. A lot of effort went into each location in this game. All of the maps feel completely different from one another and have locked doors that create shortcuts with a non-linear layout and completely different ways of traversing the map. You can mantle, jump dash, grapple, and ram doors to travel through the world, but the coolest aspect of this game goes to the character customization and enemies you'll face off, coupled with really fun and satisfying gameplay. Similar to the Dark Souls formula, there's Estus flasks, bonfires, and a soul currency, and if you're getting pissed off with me calling them by the Dark Souls words, fuck you. I will always call these mechanics bonfires, Estus flasks, and souls. It's embedded into my DNA. It's what makes Moldy Fish Sticks Moldy Fish Sticks. The character creation shows off 4 different character classes you can pick from. The Bodyguard class gives you a heavy weapon with the special move being Block. The Soldier class is similar to this in that there's a heavy weapon, but there's also a ranged attack where you can strike enemies from a distance. The Alchemist class uses light weapons with long-lasting stasis effects, and the Dancer class additionally uses light weapons, with the special move being block and a flame grenade that can ignite an enemy. All these classes also affect your starting attributes as they aim to complement your class of choice. For example, the Dancer has a boost of agility and health, while a heavy class bodyguard has a boost of durability and armor. There are many different classes and playstyles and weapons that make this game extremely fun in combat situations. And it's also important to note that these weapons will not be the only ones you come across. Personally, I came across a claw weapon which had the special move of parry, and I stuck with this throughout my entire gameplay. I just felt like it was the right suit for me because I was able to attack enemies quickly and swiftly and launch a counter attack after each successful parry. You're also able to hold two weapons at a time and easily switch between them based on the enemy you're facing or based on which weapons you like. And it's not only just like a sword and shield this time, you're able to have a heavy and light weapon, or two light weapons or two heavy weapons that you can swap out to create a more versatile experience. The bonfires or vestals act as a checkpoint through the level progression where you're able to level up your character, but additionally you can upgrade your equipment and access a shop known as the boutique to purchase other items with your souls, or essence. You attain essence after defeating an enemy, and each level is structured in a way to ensure a boss fight at the end of them. The enemies are very well designed and perfectly fit the setting, they just look fucking cool. Some of the main automats you'll be facing are the prototypes, guards, serpents, felines, and musicians and cooks. My personal favourite would have to be the serpents and musicians, as they not only provide the most challenge with their unpredictable attack patterns, but the developers really went nutty in a good way. The musicians were originally designed for just that, creating music, but when they turned on the poor Frenchmen, they decided to use their trumpets for evil, and they can even shoot projectiles from their trumpets. The serpents have two main counterparts, the Stalker and the Pruner. The Stalker version uses fire, similar to the Bell Gargoyles in Dark Souls 1, and if you face off against two of these, it actually reminded me a lot of them, seeing as they can take turns on dishing out their spreaded fire attack. But the way these serpents move are really cool and thrilling. Pruner's claws are charged with electricity that can deplete your stamina, and they can also shoot lightning. You need to get behind both of these enemies to attack its weak spot while they're attacking you with either fire or electricity, and this provided for a pretty decent encounter. I don't have all the time in the world to get into all of these enemies, but all of these enemies in this game are pretty unique and challenging during the early stages of the game. Playing as an automat, fighting rogue automats alongside the sound of metal smashing against metal is done extremely well, and it's something that I felt was pretty aesthetically pleasing. The combat had a very nice flow to it in general. There's a cooling mechanic with your stamina where when your stamina runs out, there's a timed mechanic that prompts you to push a button at the right time to regain as much lost stamina as you can. And while you're in the midst of a fast-paced duel with a boss or multiple enemies, this proves to be extremely fun and challenging in some areas. If you like what you hear and you are relatively new to the Souls-like genre and don't want that much of a challenge, this could definitely be a game for you. And you'll have fun. You'll have fun. The story's a lot easier to follow than the Dark Souls games, and I personally liked how they integrated real historical figures in this experience that kind of makes sense, although it's strange to see some of them face against automats. But if you have a lot of love for the Dark Souls franchise, you'll definitely find some weaknesses that this game suffers from, particularly in the way that it's structured as a Souls-like. But I'll get to why this game completely and utterly fails to even call itself a Souls-like more in depth toward the end of this video, as there's other complaints I have that I feel that I need to mention. Firstly, the frame stutters is definitely something that I need to delve into a little bit more. At the start of the game, for whatever reason, I barely encountered noticeable frame drops and stutters. However, the further along I went, the worse it got, to the point where I could be staring into a solid frame for a good few seconds. The audio would stutter alongside the frames as well. Some seconds sections of the game were borderline unplayable, and after rebooting my PC, it would sometimes just fix itself for no apparent reason, but the overall experience I had with the performance issues were definitely noticeable and annoying, especially when you're fighting a boss. Additionally, the game would take too long to load, so damn long, and when it did finally load, the textures weren't even fully rendered. When you couple both the unrendered textures with frame and audio drops, you get this. This is unacceptable and definitely needed a few more months in the oven before being released in this state. Calling back to the character customization, I thought the class types were designed well, but the actual visual design of your character is extremely limiting. There's barely any hair types and they were all ugly as fuck. And there were only a handful of facial designs that can't be altered in any way. This game could have really utilized this story and setting to give some unique and fun customizations, but all in all, it felt extremely bland and uninspired. Another complaint I have actually has to do with one of my compliments. While there's a lot of ways to traverse the map with different mechanics to utilize, the movements aren't as free-flowing or unconfined as I'd like for them to be. You can jump and mantle onto things to climb higher, but the things that you can jump onto are extremely limiting. Later on, this game gives you new movement mechanics, which is a jump dash and a grapple, but there's barely anywhere at all that you can grapple with the exception of a late game area, and I thought this was going to be a Sekiro type grapple that would just open up the world a lot more, but I used the grapple so little that I at times forgot what buttons to push when it came to use it. What's even more frustrating is that there are areas I could jump and mantle to where the game was like, yeah, nah, sorry about that, you can't actually do that, and there were invisible walls where the carriage was right there, but I couldn't get to. And there are ladders that led to areas I need to get to, but I can't use them. Why have so many unusable ladders scattered everywhere? Speaking of movement, you want to know what happens when I need to jump dash across the air to get to the platform ahead of me? Fucking nothing. It felt like half the time I tried to do this, it just simply didn't work for whatever reason. So I resorted to jamming the LB and A buttons to get any fucking response at all, and even then at times it didn't work until it was too late. The map design in terms of detail, yes, was done extremely well. There were some amazingly designed areas and it really captured the dark and gritty world that this is set in. An unrelenting automat dystopia. However, the actual layout as a whole was a fucking maze, in that around every corner there was a dead end. There were locked doors scattered everywhere, which is fine, but there were hundreds of paths completely blocked off with rubble. Each location is indeed different from one another, and a lot of effort went into designing these maps, but the levels that you do get to have very similar landscapes that truly felt like such a maze, to the point where even with an objective marker, it could take me so damn long to actually find where I needed to go. I'd go through a whole area and complete it, then wander aimlessly in circles trying to get back to the carriage. Encountering these dead ends, locked doors, and invisible walls just felt way too constricting. I could have easily jump dashed or grappled to areas, but the game did not let me utilize these mechanics to its full potential. This completely halted the momentum of my gameplay and made the progression extremely frustrating. An additional complaint is the lack of bosses you come across. You'll encounter mini bosses that are corrupted automats, but they're all way too similar to each other and felt copied and pasted. There was too much time in between the major boss fights, and when you combine this with a maze-like terrain, the levels can be such a drag. Obviously, the performance was a major downfall, and alongside this, a lot of the cutscenes were janky as fuck. Some people's mouths failed to move. There was this one guy sitting on a chair, and for whatever reason, he couldn't decide if he wanted to fucking sit down or not. And for everyone being frightened that you're an automat, it's ironic that they had the same amount of human emotion as Aegis. They were just blank slates for half of the time. Everyone's reaction to Aegis is also another complaint. Everyone has the same reaction.
Oh no, you're an automat. I'm going to die. Oh, wait a minute. Oh my god, you can talk? That is fascinating. You are capable full of speech and reason. I trust you now.
But this also applied to people you could converse with behind locked doors that couldn't see you. It would have been more appropriate to talk to civilians behind these locked doors for them to have no clue that they were talking to an automat. That would have been cool as fuck. But everyone knew right away without even seeing her that this was an automat. This was very confusing since no one has ever encountered an automat that has free will and the ability to speak English extremely well in a very human way at times. But they easily know right away. Ah, fucking automat. Oh my god. Oh, you can speak. Oh my god.
How fascinating.
Without even fucking seeing her. The story as a whole was okay, but it was like meh. At times I just had no reaction to the events occurring because the characters were uninteresting and lacked normal facial expressions. And this could be a personal complaint, but I felt it was quite strange having all English accents in a French setting, where they just threw in random French words and phrases. It didn't feel like I was talking to actual Frenchmen. It felt like I was watching posh Englishmen try and sound cultured. And the late game felt rushed and confusing. Without spoiling the ending, let's just put it this way. They were trying to make you feel sad, but like, I just had a blank reaction. I couldn't give a fuck. There was barely any character development, I feel. And it also has the genre of being an RPG, but it has the same role-playing ability as a fucking Call of Duty game. When you talk to someone, you usually have 3 dialogue options to choose from, but each of them don't change the flow of the story or even the conversation in any way. You eventually have to press them all to finish the convo, so what's the point in having this in the first place? Just show me a cutscene. However, if all of the performance issues were completely fixed, this would not change the biggest downfall this game suffers from: failing to be a Souls-like. There is an easy option where you're able to manually reduce the damage, increase your regeneration speed, and even keep your fucking souls after death. No. If you're a fan of the From Software series, you can see how this is problematic, especially when you're advertising yourself as a Souls-like. These games aren't meant to be hard, they're meant to be challenging. The term "get good" isn't necessarily an insult to the inferior gamers, but more of a keep trying until you figure it out, nerd. The trial and error of these games are what make it great. The games are structured in a way to make progression extremely rewarding once understood, but this game wasn't a challenge at all due to these aspects. There are objective markers. I think this is the weakest complaint, as the map is a maze, but the great thing that From Software want the player to do is explore. From the first mission, it felt like I was discouraged from exploration and finding my own way when I got the compass. But a rebuttal against this complaint is there's also an option to sell your compass at the Vestal. This game has many ingredients to create its Souls-like genre. Initially, I thought this was very Souls-like during the beginning mission of this game. However, the more I progressed, the more it felt like a hack and slash. And the game was way too easy, even on the base game mode. There wasn't any option to raise the difficulty as well, which confused me, because it was so fucking easy. There's definitely a lot of armor and weapons you could use, however they didn't really prove much use in the end. Armor does fuck all and you'll only wear stuff that looks cool. There's no search for a powerful weapon that you'll need to level up to be able to wield, which was one of Dark Souls' best aspects. You not only leveled up the attributes that suited your playstyle, but you were encouraged to do this in order to use a cool looking weapon. From what I played, I just stuck to a single weapon from the start of the game until the end and leveled it up like 5 times. This is just downright disappointing. The enemies were dumb as fuck. Half of the time, I literally thought they were blind. They'd not only swing and miss me by a mile, but at times they'd accidentally attack each other. Granted, this is an in-game mechanic where you can bait enemies into attacking each other, but you don't even need to try, especially with the ball-swanging motherfucker. But the enemies also took a while to attack you as well. Look at this fight I had with a literal boss. This dude didn't only let me perform a left-right good night, he let me do a left-right hook, uppercut, liver punch, RKO, and nipple twist. I managed to break his posture during this whole ordeal without him even touching me. But this This is something that completely fucking left me flabbergasted. There are these ordinary health vials you can pick up along the way, and similar to the life gems in Dark Souls 2, they're consumed to slowly regenerate your health. At first, I didn't think much of it since this is present with many of FromSoft's games. However, when I looked at the boutique, you can purchase as many as you want and they only cost 100 essence. The enemies even early on drop much more essence than that, so I wanted to see if I could exploit this mechanic. And guess what? You can hold over 100 ordinary health vials at a time. That's it. That's it. You fucking did it. I don't even need to fucking try anymore. I don't need to find better weapons or armor. I don't need to stop and kill enemies along the way. And I don't even need to fucking level up my character at all anymore. This completely broke the game for me, so much so that after exploiting this mechanic, I didn't die once. Not one fucking time. I even defeated the final boss with ease. I could have probably fought him an extra 30 times before running out of these health vials. The biggest downfall of this game is not the performance or janky cutscenes and some clunky mechanics or even the mediocre story. It's the fact that it has a Dark Souls formula while not even knowing what makes a Souls-like game. This leads me to give this game a 4 out of 10, and honestly I didn't want to end up giving this game a score like this. I was extremely excited and ready to play this as soon as it came out. If the performance issues were fixed and if it was set up to be more challenging and less exploitable, or even simply just designed to be a hack and slash entirely, I would have been comfortable giving this game a solid 6 or 7, but the complaints I mentioned are so severe that I can't bring myself to give this an above mediocre score. In general, this game has a lot of good and a lot of shit aspects. If you enjoyed this game, I can see why, but from someone who loves the Dark Souls trilogy and Sekiro as well as the masterpiece that is Elden Ring, I was extremely let down. That'll be it for this review. If you liked my review or didn't like it, let me know why in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe to this channel, that would make me a very happy man. But thanks for watching this video, and I hope I was able to provide a good review for you all. As always, stay safe, stay sexy, stay humble. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Suck your nipple.